We're starting to see autonomous vehicle deliveries, all the stuff that we've been waiting for, that I've been invested for, that takes Tesla to the next level, starting to come to fruition. And as Omar said, vehicle deliveries can be great, but that's really only a $300 billion business right there. What makes Tesla a multi-trillion-dollar business is autonomy and robotics. And they're starting to deliver on some huge milestones on those fronts.
They generated the first dollar of revenue.
Yeah, super important.
I mean, it's not going to be material, but it's something we've been waiting for years and years.
Welcome to the Gigacast. My name is Gav, here today with Omar and Sawyer, and we are going to kick things off discussing Tesla's delivery numbers, which were released this morning. Before we get started, for those watching here on YouTube, please go ahead and smash that subscribe button. And remember, you could drop comments below if you do want us to bring your questions into the mailbags in these episodes. Let's get right into things. There were a lot of great details within these numbers to pull from, and to be honest, they seem a lot better than I think people expected. Sawyer, you've been rage posting all morning, combing through the details. What's going on?
Yeah, so the Q2 delivery numbers were much better than I was expecting. I was expecting like low 300s, mid 300s maybe, but they came in at 384, 122. And I believe Wall Street consensus was 385, although that tends to be a little artificially high because a lot of Wall Street analysts don't even update their estimates as the quarter goes on. So it sort of tends to be an artificially high estimate. Nonetheless, they pretty much matched that. The reason the stock is up today is because the whisper number, what people were actually expecting on Wall Street, was more like 355, 360. So Tesla beat that. So in that regard, it's a beat. In general, people are probably going to say it's a miss. The sales numbers are still down year over year. I think it's down like 13, 14% from Q2 of 2024. So that's not great. But it's a worse miss. I mean, it's a less bad miss than people were expecting. It's funny because the Tesla retail analysts tend to be the most accurate with their delivery expectations, their delivery estimates, and they were actually way off. Troy Teslake, who tends to be historically one of the most accurate, this was his biggest miss in over 4 years. And then James Catt, who historically in the last few quarters has been, I think, the number one most accurate retail analyst, he was off by more than 11%. So his biggest miss ever. So it's clear that the incentives worked in Q2. They had a whole slew of them. And despite all the, the concerns about brand image, the vandalism worries, especially earlier in the quarter in April, the sort of fallout between Trump and Elon a little bit in the middle of the quarter, the sales were still okay. They weren't great. They need to be better. Actually, one thing, Evan, if you could pull up the post about the Model S, X, and Cybertruck sales. It's the third post I sent you in the DM. Tesla sold a combined 10,394 units of the Cybertruck, Model S, and Model X in Q2. And if you pull that up, we'll see how that compares to previous quarters. These are pretty terrible, especially when you consider the Cybertruck is supposed to have an installed capacity of roughly 125,000 units a year. And it looks like maybe they sold 5,000 Cybertrucks in Q2. So we're looking at 20,000 run rate a year, which is 20% of their installed capacity. So that's not great. It's sad because the Cybertruck really, in my opinion, is the best all-around Tesla. I think it's the most fun Tesla to drive. I think it's got the best features. But unfortunately, it's just not resonating with people. I think the price is still too high for most people. And yes, the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck's $80,000 or $70,000, but realistically, people aren't going to go for that. It strips out too many features for people. I think they want the all-wheel drive, but that starts at 80 grand, 73-ish if you get the EV credit. But I think it's just not resonating with people in the way that we thought it would. Model S and X are just a little too dated, unfortunately. Yes, they, updated them sort of in the middle of June, I think it was. But it's a very minor update, and we're not gonna even receive those updated S and X sales reflected really in the Q2 numbers. But I don't expect them to increase in sales a lot in Q3. So that's not great. But clearly 3 and Y sales are good, specifically Y. We're seeing really strong Y sales in various parts of the world. It sounds like rest of world sales, US sales, and other parts were pretty much stronger than everyone expected across the board. It wasn't just one specific country that I think caused that increase, or better than expectations. So those are some of my thoughts. I did make a post a week or two ago, and we talked about this on the Gigacast, that I was saying this delivery report probably matters less than any delivery report that we've had thus far. And I still stand by that. I think the story for Tesla now is RoboTaxis, autonomy, and humanoid robots. And from that perspective, I don't think people are really going to care about the vehicle delivery numbers. Nonetheless, they still need to sell cars to generate profit, to be able to fund growth and their other initiatives. So it's important that they continue to grow, and that's what we want. But the energy storage business seems strong, 9.6 gigawatt hours, best Q2 ever. So that's great to see. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, really interesting off the bat. Omar, when you look at the data, what are you seeing?
Well, look, I mean, these are disappointing numbers for me. I would love to see them above 500K, let alone 400K. So when you see a year-over-year decline, that's a little bit disappointing. Luckily, expectations were so bearish that this was actually good news compared to what some people were expecting in the 330 to 360K range. And when you look at Ford and when you look at Rivian, their EV sales fell even more year over year than Tesla's did. So I think there's more going on here than just brand damage. I think there's a lot of things going on in the auto market. Interest rates are persistently
To your point, Omar, like I just saw Volvo reported their EV sales. They were way down. Ford, their Q2 EV sales were down, I think, like 32%. Rivian's were down 23% almost. It just seems like EVs across the board are really, really hurting right now.
I think so. And, you know, gas prices are down, electricity prices are up. There's a lot of reasons that we could go into. You know, the Cybertruck sales in particular, you know, we wanted to see them doing 10,000 a month, not, you know, 5 or 6,000 a quarter. But when you look at the electric truck market, I think you reported Ford did about 5,800 Lightning deliveries. Rivian did about 10,000 deliveries total. So I think it's up there with electric trucks. The problem is the electric truck market is pretty small. For most of these electric trucks, particularly the Cybertruck, you're going to be looking at a monthly payment north of $1,000 a month before factoring in insurance and other stuff. That's more than rent for a lot of people. So, you know, definitely some continued challenges in the auto business, but I don't care about 380,000 deliveries. What I care about is one autonomous delivery from the factory to the customer. And that is going to be something that breaks the model for Tesla. When you look at the earnings they're going to be able to produce from making 400,000 cars, autonomy gives them the potential to generate a lot more earnings from those 400,000 cars they're producing than what you're seeing today. And I think that's kind of the silver lining in all this.
Can you talk just a little bit more specifically as to the bigger picture of what a car delivering itself means for the company in regards to ways that this can optimize things, scalability, all those different pieces? Because some people look and they go, okay, you know, the car delivered itself to the person or a truck delivered the car to the person. What difference does it make? What's the bigger picture here?
Well, the bigger picture is this is an ordinary car off the line. Sawyer has the exact same car. I have a Model 3 that is almost identical architecturally. With one software update, this car could go and start driving around without a driver. This is the first time that self-driving technology has been in mass production. We've seen Waymos and other cars like Cruise driving without a driver, but this is the first time an ordinary car off the line is doing it. And what that autonomous delivery really showed, going on the highways, no safety monitor, and just an ordinary car delivered to customers, is that what they've been saying for years, that every Tesla off the line will be able to drive itself, is actually true. That's a game changer in terms of what each of these cars are worth, what each of these cars is going to be able to produce in value. Sawyer and I were just in Austin riding the RoboTaxi network. I took about 69 rides. Even at this introductory price of $420 a ride, that's about $289. Now they lease a Model 3 for $350 a month, a Model Y for $399 a month right now. I paid almost $300 for just 6 days of rides. That same car that they used to lease out for $399 a month now can serve not just me, but many people, and can generate a multiple of what it used to generate if it was leased or sold out. So that really is the takeaway here. When you're trying to project Tesla's future earnings, this is everything for their valuation. This is their ability to grow earnings. They don't want to win the auto business. They want to kill the auto business. They want to create a world where people are consuming transportation as a service rather than buying cars. And they've made some major progress towards that goal this week.
For me, the autonomous delivery was a bigger deal than trying out the beta RoboTaxi service for Tesla because, for one, the autonomous delivery gets rid of two issues that a lot of people had with the beta RoboTaxi service, which was there's no safety monitor and it can go on highways. The autonomous vehicle literally went city streets, highways, everything, literally nobody in the car, fully autonomously. And it did that for 30 minutes, a 30-minute drive. And Omar and I reached out to Jose, who took delivery of that autonomous vehicle, the first one. I was like, hey, do you want to do an interview? And so Omar and I actually did a one-on-one interview with him and on X Spaces live the night or the day he took delivery, or maybe it was the night after. But and we got to ask him some questions, and he was just super blown away by the whole experience. And he was talking about how the AI team was like, we've been working towards this for 11 years. And so this is a huge moment for the company. And yes, it's just one car right now, but it's soon going to be hundreds, thousands, and hundreds of thousands cars every quarter. And this probably won't get rid of like the delivery $1,400 delivery fee. This sort of is like the last mile type thing, unless you live near an actual factory. Like for me, they're still going to have to ship the car because I don't think they're going to have it drive, 2,000-3,000 miles or whatever, all the way up to me.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, that'd be wild. But this is such a big moment for the company. It's the start of a new era, really. And I can't wait to see how it goes from here. It's super exciting. Oh, actually, one thing that was interesting is this Model Y was running RoboTaxi software, and we asked Jose, who took delivery of it, and he was like, yeah, they removed that software once it got delivered. And Jose hadn't bought or subscribed to FSD before this delivery, but once he saw this thing driving itself to his house where he lives, he immediately subscribed to FSD that day. And so I think a lot of people still have no clue what FSD is or what it can do, its capabilities. And they're a little bit like Jose in that, like, once they see it in person, experience it, then I think you're going to see a much higher take rate over time, especially as the capabilities of this FSD system just gets better and better and better. So something to look out for.
Were there any big takeaways from that conversation with him? I guess any details as to why he was the first as well?
He was just contacted randomly. I think they tried to find someone within Austin, within the current RoboTaxi geofenced area in South Austin. And he fit the bill. I think his father owns a Tesla and maybe one other family member. And they've loved them for years. But he had no official affiliation with Tesla. We did ask him that, make sure he was like just a normal customer, and he was. And they just called him up randomly, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday, and he's like, "Hey, we have a cool opportunity," and they delivered it on Friday, I think it was. So yeah, pretty cool.
What's next within this? Oh yeah, go for it, Omar.
Yeah, I think he was just kind of in the right place at the right time to be the person to take this delivery. But what really struck me about the conversation is he said, I just bought this car because my dad loves not having to buy gas. He loves driving an EV. FSD wasn't even the selling point for him. And you really see that with so many customers. They are driving manually on the freeway. You see them. A lot of the customers are still buying Tesla for all the traditional reasons they've been buying them for the last 5 years, not because of autonomy. But that's starting to change with FSD 13 6 months ago. It's really starting to turn the corner. And I think the really important point to appreciate for investors is it doesn't matter if they do 300,000 deliveries or 400,000 or 500,000 deliveries. No amount of car deliveries is going to justify $1 trillion valuation. If car deliveries are great, that auto business is worth maybe 200, 300, maybe $400 billion at most. What matters the most for Tesla to maintain and actually grow this valuation is 100% autonomy in real world AI. And the team there is executing extremely well.
I mean, that's why I said, like, the vehicle delivery report matters less than any other before it, because we're finally starting to see RoboTaxi stuff materialize. They're starting to take payments for it. Again, it's a beta service, but they'll get there. We're starting to see autonomous vehicle deliveries, all the stuff that we've been waiting for, that I've been invested for, that takes Tesla to the next level, starting to come to fruition. And as Omar said, vehicle deliveries can be great, but that's really only a $300 billion business right there. What makes Tesla a multi-trillion-dollar business is autonomy and robotics, and they're starting to deliver on some huge milestones on those fronts.
They generated the first dollar of revenue.
Yeah, super important.
I mean, it's not going to be material, but it's something we've been waiting for years and years.
And what is good news is we're starting to see them invite more people and more regular people outside of like the influencer sphere. Just yesterday, I was contacted by 4 different people in the Austin area that were invited, and they're just normal shareholders. I think most of them did sign up on Tesla's new RoboTaxi sign up form website thing. But yeah, they're really excited. They already started taking rides, and so far so good from what I hear. So yeah.
Do you need to previously own a Tesla, or do you think there's other
Nope.
requirements within this? No, just
No,
shareholder?
no. I think one of the guys doesn't own a Tesla. I think he is a shareholder though.
Yeah. Yeah, we did see someone who doesn't even have a Tesla, and honestly, it's a great service. 420 within the geofence, a really nice Model Y, great music, great entertainment options. I would take it even if I wasn't a Tesla investor.
Yeah, it definitely is exciting to me just have that autonomy. I have a couple of questions on the topic. First off, are you guys surprised, impressed that Elon put out a date and 2 dates, right? Both for RoboTaxi and for the car. It's delivering itself, and Tesla held to both of them, because it feels like there's a lot of skepticism.
I'm not surprised Elon put out a date. He's really good at putting out dates. He's less so at meeting them. But he does get credit for this. Like 6 months ago, 5 months ago, whatever it was, in January, he was like, in June, we're going to start the RoboTaxi service. And I think everyone kind of just rolled their eyes again. It was like, here we go. Here's another Elon prediction. But no, they nailed it. I mean, I DM'd Elon on this. I was like, you guys nailed it. You met the date, and it's a really good service. And it's successful. They just got to expand the service, get more. I think there's still only 11 RoboTaxis, right, Omar, in the fleet, probably?
Yeah, we counted, and I couldn't find any rides that were outside of those 11 cars.
Yeah, and so far the videos that I've seen from the new riders, it seems like they're the same cars. So it's probably still 11 vehicles. But as more and more people get invited, the wait times get longer. I think then that's where they'll likely start to introduce additional vehicles.
You guys have actually gotten a lot of feedback to the Tesla team, and I've seen them on the timeline itself responding and engaging with you. What do you think are some of the things that they're most quickly going to implement based on the back and forth that you've seen with them?
Look, I mean, it's a early launch. There's some things here and there they can improve, but overall, I think it was a massive success. We didn't see any crashes. We didn't see any safety incidents. You can't say the same for Waymo and some of their deployments in Atlanta and other cities. So people said it was impossible to drive a car with computer vision. The cars are driving with computer vision. And we sat in dozens of rides. The human monitor didn't do anything. The car really did the drive from parking lot to parking lot. So as much as people make fun of Elon for his autonomy predictions, he was right about one major thing that's going to be a dramatic inflection point in scaling. You can actually drive a car with computer vision. And I think the service is only going to scale and get better from here. They're listening to all our feedback, and they're pushing hard to expand this as fast as they can.
So give some perspective on, where Tesla is in terms of, their first autonomous vehicle delivery, robotaxi service. Ford today, legacy auto manufacturer, obviously, they announced that they released an updated version 1.5 of its Blue Cruise hands-free driving system. And the updated system can now make automatic lane changes to pass slower vehicles. But wait, there's a caveat. Blue Cruise 1.5 has upgraded ADAS hardware and more computing power, so vehicles with older Blue Cruise software cannot be updated to the newer version. So basically, you need a hardware upgrade to be able to pass vehicles automatically that are going slower than you. I think,
And this is a feature that Tesla added in 2018.
that's what I'm talking about. Like, yes, you can complain about the hardware 3 stuff, but even those hardware 3 vehicles can still self-drive all over the place and on highways and whatnot. Yeah. What a gap. There's a huge gap between legacy auto manufacturers and Tesla.
Well, there was another quote one of you guys posted about this. I think this was also from Jim Farley, where he was talking about how driving is a skill that people want to master, right?
Dude, that
Can you
blew
talk
my
about-
mind. Like, I've actually liked and respected Jim because I always felt like he was pretty open-minded and understood a lot of what Tesla was trying to do and where the industry was going. But he did an interview with Walter Isaacson a few days ago, and he was like, Jim thinks that humans want to master driving and they take pride in trying to master it. I'm like, what? And he says, quote, "It's a skill. I worry about how much autonomy is the right level of autonomy before we start losing the basic skills of awareness in a car." And then he ended with, "Autonomy can't substitute good driving." I'm like, what? That's literally what autonomy is trying to solve, is all these horrible human drivers. And then I'm like, it's maybe just Jim isn't the right person to lead Ford into a world of a lot of technology and autonomous driving, because it just seems like they're not well equipped. And then he's like, well, what system do you prefer, Tesla or Waymo? He's like, Waymo, because we prefer LiDAR, and Ford has an important brand, and we got to like stick to safety. I'm like, it just doesn't seem like he gets it. And I thought he used to, in a way that maybe he doesn't anymore. I don't know. Just weird comments by him that makes me feel like Ford better be careful, because you don't want a CEO making some bad strategic mistakes and not going all in on autonomy when they should be, because otherwise they're going to be left high and dry in the future.
Yeah, a lot of people don't remember this, but Ford actually promised that they would launch a rideshare service driverlessly in 2021. And when they didn't launch it, they said it was because of the pandemic. So, they're releasing a feature now that Tesla released 7 years ago, while Tesla vehicles are starting to operate without a driver. This is a tsunami that's coming for the auto industry, and almost everyone is still in denial. Even as we saw these cars drive to a customer's house from the factory without a driver, without a safety monitor, people are still shrugging it off. They're still saying it's all fake. And we're in a world where millions of driverless rides are happening every year, and that number's only going in one direction. If you're not prepared for this shift as an automaker, your brand may not have a future. It may die or get bought out by some Chinese company. And yeah, I think these are very troubling remarks for any Ford investor.
What Jim is not understanding is that, or maybe he does, he just isn't admitting it, is when I go to McDonald's, I'm not like, I can't wait to master driving, and I'm really looking forward to the experience of driving to McDonald's. Like, no one says that. They just want to get from point A to point B. That's what most people drive for, is to get to point A to point B, whether it be to work or grocery shopping or whatever. So that's where autonomy makes a lot of sense, and that just like get me to where I want to go at a cheap, affordable rate. I don't want to have to own my car to do that. What he's talking about maybe is like the weekend driver that wants to own some sort of sports car or driver's vehicle that actually wants to head up in the mountains of Cali or wherever, of LA, and just drive around in the curves. But most people don't really care about mastering driving. They just want to get from point A to point B cheaply.
Yeah, I mean, I just spent some time in New York City for about 10 days, and nobody wants to master driving to Soho and figure out where to park, pay $100. Nobody's on the subway saying, I want to master how to drive this train. They're just trying to get uptown, right? So for people in these huge urban environments where most of the rideshare market is, parking is expensive. Insurance has gotten absolutely expensive. Owning a car is expensive. Registration, parking tickets, you name it. People just want to get from point A to point B. And in many of these large cities, they've already given up driving. People don't own cars already.
Most people actually get worse at driving as they get older. Like their reflexes start to get slower and shitty. Their vision starts to get blurry. Like you got to wear glasses, and so yeah, your intolerance for like certain what Jim's saying, which just really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you guys. I think that especially for a company that has somewhat embraced self-driving technology, right? They've integrated into some of the pieces of the company to then make comments like that. It does feel a little bit counterintuitive.
I mean, to his credit, Ford was the first to adopt Tesla's North American charging standard, so that he gets credit for that. But I think Ford investors should be worried about his stance on autonomy because it's not looking good.
Him and Elon did a space together maybe a year ago, right? And
almost two years ago, I think.
2 years ago, and kind of had conversations around this.
Yeah, well, that was them initially announcing Ford is going to adopt Tesla's North American charging standard, and that set off the whole cascade of all these other companies signing on. So Ford has sort of led the way in that front, I think. But autonomy, they talk about all these blue cruise stuff, but you can really only use it on the highway and approved highways at that. And really mostly just in straight lines. Like it can't take too crazy of a turn or a curve. So it's just super limited. They don't really have any true self-driving capabilities.
Okay. Any other thoughts from you, Omar, kind of on the autonomy side and RoboTaxi and what we're seeing continue to see roll out?
Autonomy is going to change the way we live. It's going to change the way we consume transportation. You can be a company that helps bring this change forward, or you can be a company that gets disrupted by this change. And I think Ford has positioned themselves in the latter camp here.
Got it. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about Elon Musk, who is back on the politics train. Thank God, right? Wish we would have never left. And specifically talking about the deficit side of things. So that bill did go through the Senate, right? Moved on to the House of Representatives. Elon, very adamant that he is going to work to primary anyone that campaigned on, lowering the deficit, lowering debt in the country, and who has now voted for this bill. Certainly making a lot of enemies, I would say, in Congress, as well as just in the political spectrum overall. How does that continue to affect what he's trying to build? It seems like he's really trying to, stick to his morals and principles of I'm going to fight this fight regardless of how it affects things. But on the other side, a CEO's number one job is to protect shareholder value. So it's like kind of two things that seem to be bouncing off each other. So I really want to hear what you guys think about it.
Yeah, in terms of the bill, we should probably wait just to see what happens in the House before we actually dive into the specifics of what's in the bill, how it impacts, the renewable industry and certainly Tesla, because I think there's still a lot of unknowns as of right now. So let's just wait on that. But in terms of getting back into politics, just when you thought you could put your feet up with Elon, getting into politics, he jumps right back in. He can't help himself. I do like that he's not jumping into the mud with Trump in terms of back and forth on social media. I think Trump jumping into the mud is what Trump loves. This is a sport for him. He does it with so many people. And I think Elon should just not take the bait. I think Trump just loves this stuff. If Elon were to start a third party, the America Party, historically third parties don't do well in elections. Having said that, if there's one person that could figure it out, it would probably be Elon. But I'm not sure it would really end up much different. Like he helped get a lot of Republicans elected that have now that ran on, that we want to cut spending, we want to support Doge and all this, and now they're sort of doing the opposite. They're wanting to increase spending with this bill, and even though the American Party would probably be well intentioned, my guess is unless you would change the fundamental government incentive structures, I think a lot of these American Party candidates could just, even if they win, could just get consumed by the government swamp, so to speak. And it would just fall into the special interests and the fundraising crap. And so I'm not sure Elon would have much control over that. There's only so much he can do from outside the government. So And it just, to me, it's just like, oh man, we'd have to go through like another year and a half of like politics and like fundraising and doing like these rallies, giving $1 million to this person. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm just like, what's going to cause this time to be different? Like, if we start the America Party, how is this going to be different than supporting the Republicans before? Yeah, I get what he's saying there. I think there's a lot of appetite for like positions in the middle. I think most people are in the middle rather than these extremes of either party. But unfortunately, our country is just so entrenched in this two-party system that it's going to make it hard for Elon to start a new party and for it to do well. But he's going to do what he thinks is right. He has a really strong moral compass, and if that ends up hurting his companies or the stock, he views that as a worthwhile thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sawyer made a lot of good points. For me, the technology is really what matters here, and it feels like so much of what investors are looking at is just getting distracted by this drama. I mean, it feels like a rerun of what we saw in early June, like a lighter version of that feud where it blew up, everyone was panicking, they were predicting SpaceX was going to be nationalized, and then everything ended up being okay. I think this story is ultimately going to be less important than what's going on technology-wise with Tesla, even though it may feel much more dramatic right now. And, you know, if you look at Elon's sort of political involvement, it hasn't exactly been a roaring success so far. You know, I made a joke, you know, he's complaining about this bill. Well, he got these guys elected, right? So everything bad that's happening for clean energy, supporting fossil fuels, I mean, he gave millions of dollars to make that happen. So you do have to kind of wonder, you have to kind of look at the history of third parties and say, well, why is this time going to be different? The odds of success are probably quite low. And I think all the Tesla investors, when he tweeted he was going to start a third party, were just groaning and going, oh God, not this again. But at the same time, I think one thing we can all agree about is American politics is broken. It is absolutely broken. And I think he wanted to fix it. I don't think he has succeeded so far. He's kind of gotten caught in the mud, attacked, you know, your typical dirty politics stuff. But the system definitely is broken. We have a choice between who do you want representing you, a communist or an idiot? And that's really the choice we're presented with. So, you know, with Elon, many of his business ventures started off not so great. With SpaceX, they started off with the rockets blowing up. With Tesla, Leonardo DiCaprio was on the side of the highway with his Roadster. The car broke down, and they needed to send someone to fix it. Maybe he figures something out here too. I don't think it feels likely right now, but that's kind of the thing about him. A situation where any other sane person would give up, he doesn't give up. And that's kind of the good and the bad thing about him, right? I think in the SpaceX days, he said if something's important, you do it even if the odds aren't in your favor. And I think that he feels that this is important. So if you're someone who can't stomach this, maybe you don't want to be a Tesla investor, because at this point, it's hard to believe that he's not going to continue tweeting about politics. More controversies like what we saw this week are almost guaranteed. And that's just something that I've kind of accepted as a Tesla investor because I want to own a piece of this technology.
I think what would ultimately end up happening if he started a third party is actually, I think a lot of the people that would sign up for the America Party or get siphoned in would actually come from the Republican side. So in a way, that would actually almost dilute the votes between those two parties, American Party and Republicans, and actually potentially help the Democrats win. Because I'm not sure. I think more votes would be coming from the Republican side rather than the Democrat
For
side.
sure.
Which is not something I think he would want to see happen. I think the best way Elon should change the world is through technology and being a business leader. I think, as he said, he can increase GDP growth, bring down sort of the debt ratio by nailing it on humanoid robots, autonomous driving, stuff like that. So to me, that's the best path. I just would hate for him to go on another year and a half long political slog, for it to just sort of end up how it did this time, and that the political leaders end up just doing the opposite of what they said they were going to do. And then we're just like, well, God damn it, we just went through this a second time. And all these Tesla investors are pissed and like, God damn, you know?
Look, all I'm saying is if you want to start a third party, save some money to start a fourth party after the third party candidate you get elected disappoints you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. It's just, I just feel like it's going to end up similar to what we're dealing with right now with the Republicans. It's just, I think Elon will end up being disappointed by all the political leaders. He might like certain ones and just end up not liking them later. So
I think fixing American politics is probably harder than scaling self-driving or getting to Mars in a different way.
yeah, I think you're right. It's because he doesn't really have control over it. Like, he can tackle the autonomous driving thing and try all kinds of first principles approach, but it's really hard to first principles of government.
Yeah, we're maybe a few years too late there. For sure. It's definitely pretty entrenched. We'll see. He's not going to stop, in my opinion. I don't think that this is a fad.
Elon is always guided by his moral compass, and if something supersedes in terms of importance another thing, he's going to prioritize that number one thing. You know? And for a while, that was, getting Trump elected and the Republicans elected, and then it was Doge and the national debt crisis, and then it became, well, I can't do that because all these people suck and they're not willing to codify the Doge cut. So let me just focus on increasing GDP growth via my own companies. But if he feels like there's a path for a third party and a somewhat high probability of winning, he might just go all in on that. And that's going to upset a lot of people, but ultimately Elon's going to do what he thinks is right. So
I am happy that the position that at least he's doubling down on in the politics side is, stop printing all this money. Right? Like, stop just adding to the debt, right? There's a lot of positions that you could come in on and made his gold standard. But the fact that that is the one, it feels like everybody should be able to get behind that. And he's dredging up all the receipts from a few years ago from both sides, saying that's what we are for, and just showing that you're not actually for this, right? But you should be if you actually cared about it.
This is why politics sucks. Is like, I saw a post from Ted Cruz from 2023. He's like, the national debt crisis is terrible. We have $30 trillion in debt. And then he's like, yesterday post, like, congrats to the Senate on passing this incredible bill. That I was like, this increases the debt by like $5 trillion. I'm like, this is what I mean. Like, politics just sucks. They only support things that serve them, and then they just, if the other party's doing something, that they automatically criticize it, and then they'll go and do the same thing 2 years later when their party's in the majority. It's just like, it's just absolute crapshoot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll wrap that one up here. Elon tweeted out, follow this account today. Did you see the one he tweeted? It was called the This You account.
Yeah.
And This You just puts together the old tweets and the new tweets of people related to politics. So yeah, it's pretty funny to see. People talk in circles. Okay, by the way, Sawyer, that's a fun shirt. I just actually saw the head on there. That's cool.
Yeah, I got the new Optimus t-shirt. I think they released it like a month ago or something.
Very nice. Very nice. Looking slick. Okay, really good. We can move away from the politics. I want to double back, and I want to talk about what's next. I feel like there's been a huge kind of like weight sitting up there of like, June's coming. We really want to make sure that we execute on RoboTaxi. What's the next big dates now? June is here and it's past. We're in July now. Crazy that June's already done. I think we were just saying June is here. So what are you guys looking forward to next throughout the rest of this year in regards to big technology that's coming to change the game in these areas?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's all about scaling now. So right now, Waymo has a bigger geofence in Austin. They've got about 100 cars, whereas Tesla has 11. They're much more open with their invites. Just as a start, I want to see Tesla beat Waymo in Austin, and I think they have the right ingredients to do it. I want to see them expand to San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. I want to see them in Los Angeles. I want to see them in Palo Alto. I want to see them in San Francisco. I want to see them sending FSD updates to customer cars. So this isn't the finish line. This is the starting line. And as long as people are still driving manually, there's a lot of work to do. And right now, 99.999% of the world's driving is manual. So they've got their work cut out for them.
I think a main focus, at least for retail investors and institutionals, will be the Q2 earnings call in 3 weeks. And I think a lot of people are going to want to know, where are these affordable models? Because Tesla said that they were going to start production in the first half of 2025. The first half is now over. They didn't say they would unveil them in the first half. They just said start production. So for all we know, they could be in very low volume production right now, and they just haven't unveiled them yet. I did see some China rumors that maybe there's a more affordable Model Y and like maybe a 6-seater Model Y, bigger Model Y coming out of Giga Shanghai maybe in July. I have no clue if any of that is true. But I would expect us to see these more affordable models in Q3 at some point. The only thing I would think of that would maybe result in them not launching these things in Q3 would be if the House passes this bill and Trump signs it into law, the EV credit effectively ends September 30th, at the end of September of this year, which means Q3 is going to be nuts, at least in the US, in terms of sales. And so they'd probably have all the demand that they'd likely need or want for that quarter just because of the mass or the last minute dash to get as many sales as possible. So, but that's just the US, that's not the rest of the world. So I don't know. The problem is if they unveil it in the rest of the world, people are going to know what's coming to the US soon. So maybe people would hold off, which you wouldn't want. So I don't know how they're going to do it. My guess is we'll probably see them in like September, if I had to guess. That's probably when we'll see them.
Yeah, I would expect maybe we would hear something by the earnings call. I mean, they can't just copy and paste the same sentence on the deck again. We're now past the first half of 2025. I have seen a lot of people kind of up in arms on X saying, where are these new, more affordable models? But I don't think you want to unveil it at the end of the quarter when you're trying to beat delivery estimates. So
No.
I think the unveil would probably be this quarter. Maybe tariffs delayed that somewhat, but I think we are going to hear some news on that very soon. And if they lose the EV tax credit, those more affordable models could turn out to be very important. But we have seen some code in the vehicle firmware for a 6-seat Model Y. I'm kind of scratching my head on that one. Like, where is the 6th seat exactly? Maybe it's 2 and 2 and 2, 3 rows. But there clearly is something in the works here. And I think they're going to have to unveil it to us pretty soon now.
Interesting. 2 and 2 and 2, or pull the classic old truck, throw an extra seat up in the front middle.
You would
tossed
think it'd
up.
be a longer vehicle though, like not just the same Model Y now, just with like captain's chairs like the X has. You would think it'd be something else, but I
Yeah,
don't know, maybe not.
a longer wheelbase Model Y could be big.
Do so well.
I think really they want to incorporate a lot of the parts of the cyber cab, actually bring some of the next gen platform innovations in, maybe move to 48 volt and things like that, and use the existing Model Y lines. The goal here, I think, is really to increase utilization. Giga Texas and Giga Berlin are way under capacity. I mean, they've got massive factories there. They're only doing a fraction of what I think they can do. If these new models help them get to higher utilization in their existing factories without massive additional CapEx investments, then that could be huge. They could get to as much as 3 million deliveries according to their own guidance without major CapEx investments, just by improving utilization.
I just hope they unveil them soon because we're at the point in the retail community where like there are people looking at Tesla literally put out a photo of the new Model Y with the RoboTaxi lettering on the side, and people were like, guys, it's shorter than a normal Model Y. And I'm like, they're analyzing a photo. I'm like, holy God, that's literally just a normal Model Y. And they're analyzing all these photos. And then there's like spy shots from like drone things where the front model of the Model Y in the back is like covered in this black, camo that they typically do when they test new vehicles. And they're like, guys, it's the shorter Model Y. I'm like, that is literally just a normal, that's the performance Model Y testing in front of your eyes. So yeah, people are just like going rampant with speculation and seeing things that aren't actually there. And even in the impact report, they had like a photo or a graphic of all these different products that they own, their product portfolio. And charging at a supercharger was like a plug-in hybrid EV or something from a non-Tesla. And everyone's like, that's the new compact. I'm like, oh my God. Leave it to the retail community to just come up with crazy
It's so
theories.
funny. I mean, they never unveil a vehicle this way. Hey, let's throw it in like page 43 of the impact report.
Yeah.
This would be a great way to unveil our new vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, I'd love to see by like December of this year some initial just like RoboTaxi, Cybercab prototypes, because I know they've been working on sort of getting the production lines up and running and going for that, setting those up. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just see some initial, not like production ready units, but just some prototypes built at Giga Texas.
Yeah, if they want to do volume production in 2026, as they've guided for, we would really need to see production start, at least in small volumes, by Q4 or Q1 of 2026. And now that they've launched the Austin service, they've got some place to deploy these vehicles. But yeah, that's going to be really cool to see those on the road.
What about Robovan?
That I feel like is further out. That seems
Yeah.
more at the prototype stage than anything they're preparing to actually produce right now.
That's like a 2030 vehicle to me. Like that's a while
Oh,
ways
really?
off. Yeah,
Like
I
half
don't think it's
decade?
I don't think it's anytime soon. I think
Okay.
actually one thing we didn't touch on that I felt like was really shocking news to most people, Tesla announced that they're almost done building their LFP battery manufacturing facility in Nevada. And based on the comments I saw, almost nobody knew this thing was even being built. The only thing I remember them doing is they talked a little bit about it on the Q1 earnings call, saying that they're going to expand domestic manufacturing of LFP cells. And back in January of 2024, Bloomberg put out a report that they're going to build a 10 gigawatt hour capacity LFP facility in Nevada using CATL production equipment. And it looks like that's what they've done. They're now almost finished with that. If it is 10 gigawatt hours capacity, that means it can cover, so the Lathrop Megapack facility is 40 gigawatt hours annually. So this means that could cover 25% of their annual battery needs from that one Lathrop Megapack facility. It's not nothing. It's not a lot, but it's a good start, I guess. But this isn't going to be like 4680 LFP cells. This looks like it's just the prismatic sort of wet process cells based on the video that they're showing here. But nonetheless, like we have almost zero LFP manufacturing capabilities in the US. So this is great to finally see some of these cheap LFP plants popping up.
Yeah, this is a pretty big deal. And honestly, it may be as material or more material short term than robotaxis. So right away, the energy business, it's been using cells that were imported from China. If they can move those mega packs over to these US produced LFPs, that's going to lower costs and it's going to stop them from having to raise prices on mega packs produced in the US. So that's a big deal, especially when you see how the energy business has been doing and how that's really been such a strong growth driver as the auto business has lagged. Longer term, I think they could include it in vehicles as well. Some of the experts I follow, like the limiting factor, say they don't think that's going to happen quite yet. But longer term, I do believe they want to produce Tesla LFP cells and put them in their lower cost vehicles like the Cybercab and even these new, more affordable models.
One thing to look out for with this new manufacturing facility is that with the Inflation Reduction Act that Biden passed a few years ago, they introduced a manufacturing credit so that if you meet certain requirements, you get $45 per kilowatt hour of battery that you put it, you manufacture in the US. So for a long time now, Tesla's Panasonic facility in Giga, Nevada, and their Texas manufacturing at Giga, Texas, their battery producing there. Every Model Y gets roughly $3,400 of credits that they get from the government per Model Y battery that they build. And obviously it's more for the Cybertruck because it's a bigger battery, probably more like 5,000-6,000 or something. So it remains to be seen if this new bill from the Senate, so actually someone from Rivian DM'd me this and told me this. And then I did talk with Rohan, who was the former vice president of policy and business development. He left Tesla last year, but I asked him if this was true. And I was told that because Tesla's new manufacturing facility uses production equipment from CATL, a Chinese company, that it wouldn't necessarily qualify for the $45, manufacturing credit. I don't know if that's true. I haven't confirmed that yet. I'm going to look more into that. I don't think we've seen the full final bill text yet. And of course, the House could still change certain rules that could change all of this. But that's something to look out for. But all Tesla's other manufacturing facilities still qualify for it, so that's fine. And it doesn't look like this new bill also touches the energy storage credits as well. So those will stay around until 2033 or something. So that's great to see because that's important for Tesla.
Yeah, if they can qualify for that battery production credit, it's a very big deal because you can really get LFP packs probably down to around $60 a kilowatt hour after that subsidy, which would be, really just a few $1,000s for a small vehicle like a Cybercab. This would really bring EVs to true price parity with gas cars. Now, granted, there's probably a few years of scale up before that can happen at any meaningful level, but just the fact that they're starting to invest in making their own LFP batteries, I think is very promising for their future vehicle lineup.
Yeah, so I'll try to look into if that's true, if Tesla will lose that manufacturing credit from that facility because of that CATL equipment. Again, I don't even know if it uses CATL equipment. I assume it does just because of how quickly they put it together and based on the video that we saw. Because that's the same sort of process that CATL uses in China, where the Tesla currently gets their Megapack batteries from. But these batteries will go into the Megapack, the Powerwalls. That'll be great. So I'll try to dig in more into the bill. And I think the House is going to vote on it today or tomorrow. They're trying to get it through by the 4th, but I don't know if they will be able to. It's a pretty contentious thing. So,
Yeah, just 2 days to go, and probably most of them are going to be wanting to be leaving the area by midday tomorrow, right?
Yeah. But I'll look into it, see if it's true or not, because it's not a huge deal because it's a relative to Tesla's overall capacity of battery manufacturing. It's somewhat small, but it's not immaterial either. So we'll see.
There's another Megapack factory going up in Australia as well, right?
So no, so they built one in Lathrop, California, 40 gigawatt hour annual capacity. They just finished one earlier this year in Shanghai, also 40 gigawatt hour capacity. So that's 80 gigawatt hours annually right there. That's a lot. And then now they're building another brand new one in Texas. Which will likely also be 40 gigawatt hours. So that brings them up to 120 a year, which is a lot. So I suspect that this new LP facility will help supply some of those Megapacks from the new Texas facility.
Australia has been a big buyer of Megapacks, which is probably what you're thinking of. Really, the whole Megapack project kicked off when Australia bought a bunch of power packs.
Yeah, so what you're thinking of is sort of a recycling, repurposing facility that Tesla's building, not a full-on production facility. Because I know what you're referring to, but I think it's still like just a small operation in Australia.
Got it. It's like 100 million or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well, just because we've talked about that market in the past, and it's surprising, but it is really a burgeoning market for them, as well as it continues to come. But obviously, those delivery numbers, even really just around the world, were higher than I think a lot of people thought. Okay,
well,
really
it's huge, and also on top of that, they're working on Megapack version 3, which I think is supposed to come out next year, according to Elon. So that'll hopefully improve costs even more, and who knows what other stuff they'll be able to stuff in there. Because they're a market leader in my opinion in terms of technology on the energy storage front, grid energy storage. So yeah, Australia, I think,
and we need a lot of these batteries right now.
Yeah,
for our AI data centers, for EV growth. we need a lot more electricity, and we need a lot of these large battery packs.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to ask who their largest client is right now for them.
I don't know who their single largest client is. I forget the company actually, but they've been building in Australia. I think they've already done over $4 to $5 billion worth of megapack projects in Australia alone, and that's just constantly going up quickly. But as Omar said, these things are so important, especially for these AI data centers. One of the issues that Elon's company XAI had with their Memphis, Tennessee data center, which is the largest GPU data center in the world, they were having power regulation issues, and their gas generators just weren't able to switch on and boot up quick enough to be able to help regulate the power fluctuations. Because there's, it's not a constant, steady power need when these GPU centers, it goes up and down. And so they brought in Tesla Megapacks to help fix some of those issues and help smoothen things out. So now they have dozens and dozens of Megapacks at this facility to help smoothen out that power. And I think a lot of other data centers could be taking on that approach too.
And you know what I think is really a differentiator for them, because you have CATL and BYD and others making battery packs. It's the software, same as in their cars. They've got some really smart software in these things. You can stack them endlessly, add more megapacks, and manage them all from a central interface. Make them act like one megapack. You can have virtual machine mode, where they actually pretend to be a fossil fuel natural gas turbine, and they ramp up and down the same way. You have technology like virtual power plant on the Powerwall side, and you have technology like AutoBidder that allows the batteries to autonomously monetize themselves. Rather than having someone charge and discharge the battery manually, they can actually look at the energy market and automatically do the right thing for you. So that software advantage, I think, is pretty strong and is going to continue to set them apart from their peers in this space.
Actually, in Tesla's annual impact report that they put out a day or so ago, they did talk about how one of their virtual power plant programs in California in April, there was an event between, I don't know, like 7 or 10 p.m. and the grid needed more energy. So one of the Tesla's VPP programs, I think supplied like a significant amount of the percentage of overall power needed to the grid during that time. I forget what the actual percentage is, but Tesla has so many Powerwalls out there now enrolled in these programs that they're actually like contributing in a meaningful amount to the grids during these times of power needs, which is it's pretty cool when you think about it. And then the Powerwall owners get paid like $2 to $4 per kilowatt hour of energy that's sent out, which is like really profitable, which is awesome.
Yeah, we actually just enrolled. We got 2 Powerwalls at my parents' house, and they're paying us about $700 a year to help support the grid. So
What's
it's a pretty
per
good
kilowatt
deal.
hour rate? Do they tell you?
It depends on the event, I think, but they estimate
Okay.
it's about $350 per Powerwall, and we've got 2 of them.
Okay. Not
Got
bad.
it.
Pretty good.
Yeah, the software is definitely a huge advantage there. Actually, speaking to software, hardware, some of these pieces, I saw a post that someone made, and it was comparing how Blackberries went to iPhones, to Waymos, to RoboTaxis. And I thought it was kind of like a cool little comparison, saying, oh, well, maybe you don't need all those buttons and things all over it, right, to accomplish this if you can just have that software.
Yeah, the RoboTaxi race is definitely on, and it's going to push both companies. They're going to compete. You know, so many people say, well, Waymo's already there first. But, you know,
So was BlackBerry.
GM created the EV1 before Tesla existed. There were many smartphones before the iPhone. Being there first doesn't matter. Being the best is what matters. And I think Tesla has the best solution here. Most people haven't wrapped their head around it yet, but it's going to become very clear, I think, as they scale.
That's one thing that I think people get caught up too much on is who is first and currently most capable versus who is actually most scalable and who can be the most profitable. Tesla clearly to me has the path to the best scalability and profitability. And yeah, Waymo might actually be the overall better service now because they have more cars and they have a bigger geofenced area. They're in multiple cities. But Tesla's clearly the most scalable in my opinion. They have the cheaper vehicle, the better service, the better app. Their app experiences is way better. And once you actually get in the car, I prefer the Tesla experience to the Waymo experience. So
Yeah.
You want to talk about first? I think Tesla's going to generate the first dollar of net income from autonomous rideshare.
Ooh, big prediction. You're probably right, though. I think you're right.
One last just little fun topic. This is not Tesla specific, but because you guys are talking about AI and energy needed for AI, I just want to get your thoughts real quick before we wrap up on the latest AI wars. I'm sure you guys have been seeing the posts. Meta, OpenAI, and of XAI maybe is getting in there at some point too, with just everyone just spending boatloads of money to recruit. They've got the posters of traded, right? Meta going for Alexandr Wang. I feel like this stuff is just pretty fascinating to me. Omar, have you been following along pretty close?
Yeah, I mean, the AI talent war is just insane. You know, Meta paying $100 million to some people.
Is that true?
I actually have, well, yeah, I think it's about 75% equity, 25% cash, but
Still,
yeah,
that's
definitely.
fucking insane.
I
Yeah,
mean,
big
they're
money.
playing hard to get top talent, but
Yeah.
this isn't a race that you can win just with money. Um, a lot of times you give people too much money, they end up going and starting their own company and competing against you. That's what happened with Waymo. They gave everyone such big payouts that, you know, Anthony Lewandowski went and sold to Uber. So we'll have to see what happens there. One of my friends was actually an ex-Scale AI employee, and she got a fat check from this acquisition. So we're very happy about that. But yeah, you know, it's going to be brutal competing for top talent. And you really have to be an Elon Musk or a Mark Zuckerberg or a Sam Altman to really be able to compete in this space, and put out cutting edge AI products like Tesla and XAIR.
Omar, who's the guy that helped co-found or ran OpenAI with Sam and that left last year that started his own AI company?
Ilya?
Ilya
Ilya.
Sutskever.
I think
Yeah.
didn't Meta approach Ilya like a month or in the recent weeks for like with a $30 billion offer, and he was like no, and he just started his company a year ago. He's already getting $30 billion offers. Like that's how crazy this current AI race is.
Well, Ilya Sutskever, you know, has been a massive pioneer. Really, when you look at AlexNet and just even realizing that you can train on GPUs, these are, you know, people who are really instrumental in some of the breakthroughs we've seen now in AI. But you know, the the future is really going to be based on breakthroughs we haven't seen yet. It may not just be more of the same. So who's going to win the AI race? I can't tell you which company it's going to be, but I think the real winner is the general public. As they're pouring billions and billions of dollars in, we're getting these incredible AI tools that, you know, for me, I've been working on software projects, and man, it's just so satisfying to just type a sentence, and something that used to take you an hour is now done in a minute. So I think the real winner in this competition is going to be all of us and the creativity and productivity it enables.
Yeah. There was the. Are you familiar with Alexandr Wang as well?
Yeah, Alexandr Wang and Scale were basically uh, data labelers. So they, you know, they would go hire a bunch of people in the Philippines, and they were actually doing a lot of the labeling for these self-driving car projects. Waymo, Cruise, even Tesla used to use them before they moved their data labeling team in-house. And they would just go hire all these guys in third world countries and just ask them to label data sets. And they had a lot of products around that. So it's a really sort of important piece of training any AI model. Meta's kind of swallowed them now for the most part. But yeah, that is really what it comes down to. You know, it seems like all this fancy high tech stuff, but at the end of the day, you're really just talking about a bunch of guys annotating data, labeling data, curating data sets to help them get these models to work properly and give the right answers.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it progress. I agree with you. The ultimate winner is us. And we already have access to a lot of these models and get to use them for a very, very cheap cost. And, you know, they take on the concept of building them and competing for all the talents and things like that. So yeah, bit of a win-win. All right, really good thoughts here. We are not too far away from earnings coming up shortly in upcoming episodes. I'm so sure that we'll do an earnings preview. for everybody. So we'll run through that. Of course, give more updates on RoboTaxi and details around there. Hopefully, Elon, we don't have too much politics talk upcoming. We'll see. I'm not too hopeful. I'll have to continue to think about it. Sawyer, do you have any other comments on this episode?
Looking forward to the earnings call. A lot has happened since the last one. So, especially not only with politics stuff, but also with Tesla, the company, all RoboTaxi. I hope we get some. I hope they tell us how many rides they've done, how many miles riders have traveled. I doubt they'll really give us that insight. They probably want to keep it secret. But I'd like to just hear a path of how it's going, and when they might be able to remove the safety monitors and expand the service, the geofence, whatnot, and just give us a generalized idea of how the feedback has been with the service. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I hope there's just a lot of energy on this call. What do you think, Omar?
I'm really excited for the call. I'm really excited to hear what they have to say about RoboTaxi. Look, we're in Tesla's fully autonomous driverless area. This is day one of that new era. And most of the analysis you see on Tesla is just simply not serious. They're looking at Twitter drama. They're focused on who Elon's following or not following, while this RoboTaxi service scales in the background. So I think this is definitely a time where it's going to be important to focus on the signal and tune out the noise. And this company is really transforming. This is not the Tesla we've known of the last 10 years anymore. They want to disrupt transportation in a major way that's going to be even bigger than what they did to the automotive industry, pushing everyone to go electric. And I think it's going to be a really exciting time to be an investor.
Yeah, and here's the super exciting part with everything that's happened over the last 5 years. If you go ahead and you look at Tesla stock during that time period, we haven't really. Once you get to the end of 2020, we were trading at 235. If you go to 2021, we went all the way up to 407. So right where we are right now, trading at 314, kind of this area. That's basically where we were at the start of 2021 for all intents and purposes. But the technology has gotten so much better. So you're buying a company at the same valuation of 4 years ago with all of these new developments. So to me, it just makes a lot of sense.
It's really all about growth. Like right now, Tesla is a company from a revenue and delivery standpoint. It's not growing. The energy side is still growing, but we're sort of in this in-between period where the auto business is slowing down, but we're still waiting for the RoboTaxi side to just completely take off. And right. I think that will happen relatively soon, especially next year as the cybercabs start hitting the streets. It's just a matter of waiting. And I think historically, Tesla has these long periods of flat stock growth or just stagnation, and then very short periods of massive bursts higher. And we saw that last year after the election. Same thing in 2021. So unless people bought on the lows of 2022, they're probably flat or even down on their stock. But I think if they hold, they'll probably do well.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla is a stock that often trades on future expectations. It can sort of price in a lot of that future ahead of time. I mean, if you look at Tesla stock in 2013, split adjusted, it was trading at $12. Fast forward to 2019, 6 years later, and you could still get Tesla for $12 at the low. In that time, they ramped Model S. They ramped Model X. They launched the Supercharger network. They launched Model 3 and eventually made that a profitable vehicle. For a long time, while people were doubting whether the auto business could ever be profitable, it was range bound. It was stuck in that range and it wasn't breaking out of that range. Most people believed it was very overvalued. But once they proved that auto business could be profitable, sustainably profitable, and they then got included in the S&P 500, there was a re-rating of the company. And the company's been trading at hundreds of billions of dollars ever since. Now, where we are right now, they're not going to be trading at a valuation north of a $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion market cap before they prove that RoboTaxis can really scale and be profitable. But once they do, well, then this is a multi-trillion-dollar company that's going to be a leader in autonomous rideshare and humanoid robots. So sometimes you have to be patient with this stock. And I think this is definitely one of those times. It may be a few more years that it's trading within this range, but Ron Barron had a great quote on this the last time it broke out in 2020. We look at the business, not the stock price. The stock price didn't move much at all. The business completely changed in that period. And the same thing is happening here. The stock price might not be moving much or might be going in circles, but with technology like FSD and Optimus, the business is completely changing. And sooner or later, the market's going to price that in.
It's a big time. It's a big year. I'm excited to see it all happen. We'll be covering it all here on the Gigacast. Thank you, everyone that tuned into this episode. Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube. Throw us that 5-star rating on Spotify and like and follow on X. Make sure, of course, that you're following Sawyer and Omar on X as well. Lots of great updates. And then over on Omar's channel, a lot of great footage as well from inside of the RoboTaxis. We, of course, put up Sawyer's first ride also on our channel on the Gigacast here. If you haven't seen it yet, scroll back a couple videos, go and give it a watch. Thank everyone for tuning in. As always, exciting times ahead. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.